to just over 573,000 pula before this year's general elections. The deaths came about after the Umbrella for Democratic Change lost a court case in which it said it had proved that the elections were rigged and petitioned the results at the High Court. The UDC, however, lost a case on technicalities, and its appeal of the 14 petitions was further dismissed with courts by the Court of Appeal. When addressing an all-party conference in Gaborone this morning, IEC Secretary Jeff Siamisang was not clear as to whether there will be any consequences for the candidates who would have not settled their debts before the elections, advising that it will be ideal to go into the elections on a clean slate.
Costs were awarded in favor of the election management body. Yano panguba duetse mi mona kwa gompieno fa la ba santse ba kolota IEC madi a heta 573,000. Yano ke bua ke go bitsela thata batho betso ibile ke sera mafoko a le kane go supa boikokobetso go ke ne kopa gore ba ba amegang ba duele ba go meeting kele go di agente tsa rona ba duele betere go dithopong on what Dr. Patrick Mulutsi used to call a tabula rasa, clean slate.
Authorities in Hmong have expressed concern about an upsurge of drug abuse. Northwest District Council Chairperson Itumele Nkelebetsing says that the district has been registering a rise in the number of young people who are drug addicts. Nkelebetsing has urged parents and the community to fight the scourge.
There's a lot of drugs pushing and peddling and because of this drug abuse. So I will push
And lastly, South Africa's Home Affairs Department has uncovered fraud related to how Miss South Africa finalist Chadima Aditsina obtained her South African citizenship 23 years ago. Reports suggest there are prima facie reasons to believe that her mother committed identity theft at that time, according to Home Affairs records. Aditsina's identity sparked a stir across social media, mainstream media, and the political spectrum when she became a Miss SA finalist bearing a Nigerian name. Many celebrities and politicians defended her participation in South Africa, saying she was deserving of her place as a South African citizen, even if not by birth. The controversy prompted the Miss SA organizers to consult with Home Affairs, which has since launched an investigation and intend to press charges against all implicated parties. And a recap of leading stories: IEC urges 2019 election result petitioners to pay debt of over 570,000 pula before the next elections. And in South Africa, the Home Affairs Department uncovers fraud in relation to Miss South Africa finalist Aditsina.
YaronaFM News.
The real story.
The YaronaFM Weather Report is brought to you by Jamal Trading Company, your number one supplier in building material and hardware.
And current temperatures across the country: Hmong in Kasana 31 degrees Celsius, Francistown 29, Selebe 28, and lastly Gaborone 26. Here's the next YaronaFM bulletin at 4.
The YaronaFM Weather Report was brought to you by Jamal Trading Company, your number one supplier in building material and hardware.
Visit Jamal Trading Company for all your building material and hardware needs. Call 3922-2900 or email jamalsales1@gmail.com for a free quotation. Jamal Trading Company, your number one supplier in building material and hardware.
The YaronaFM Daily Sports Update.
All right, thank you very much, Luce. My name is Martin Fani, the charismatic one. Let's start with the latest in tennis news. we have sent a team of young girls, that is under 12, to Mozambique, Maputo, to compete at the International Tennis Federation under 12 Boys and Girls Championships. They started their quest yesterday when our boys won 3-love, and our girls team also won 3-love against Malawi. And this morning we've seen results from Mozambique that our girls continued their winning streak against Mozambique, winning 3-love as well. So this is the team that will represent Botswana at this competition. That is called AJC. The girls team, they are represented by Camila Seetso, Malak Macheng, and Angel Chakanyuka. Then the boys is Moshele Kaukau, Rorisa Ngubuseng, and Lebone Tlape. They are under the guidance of coaches Klebohile Monayo and Brighton Kitting. All the best to our youngsters in Mozambique, Maputo. And finally, in the Olympics, Kitobohile Haingwira managed to get position 1 in the repechage race, where he got a slot in the semi-finals. He will be joining Tepso Masalela, who got an automatic qualification yesterday, and unfortunately Tumong Kape did not make it to the semi-final of 800 meters. Remember, tonight is the big one, the final of 200 meters. Lizile Tebogo will be on action at 8:30. Good afternoon.
YaronaFM Daily Sports Update.
You, yes you, we know you are a liker of nice things.
You know yourself.
So say jalase, keep it locked right here.
YaronaFM.
Like we always do with this time. Welcome to the good life. I go for mine. I get to shine. Welcome to the good life. The good life. The good life.
The Good Life with Luke, Monday to Friday, 12 to 3 p.m.
Now throw your hands up.
We're looking for some new music. Over.
If you want your music to be part of the YaronaFM playlist, email music at yaronafm.co.bw for consideration. Live the music.
And you know how we do it each and every day after the 1 p.m. news bulletin. We jump into something new, something blue, never something old or something borrowed. Jump starting your lunch hour with great music. It's a new track. The name of the song is Dudu Etsang. In my language, we say Mpululu Majoti. It's Nwelo and a Bonnie feature alongside Jazz Beats. Give it a hear and hit me up on +267 39 110 to let me know how you feel about it. And if you get to mess with it much, worry not. Later on the climax from 3 to 6 p.m., they'll give you the same dose of the same track. No Cap coming through from 7 to 10 p.m. We will still do that on its second hour of a No Cap show. But for now, enjoy this one.
New music. New music. Here first. YaronaFM.
Wano tweripilo alije, tweripilo itata. Chipi ya urobela ditokwa ditebenga bamchalo manga. Una no boko, kala kala kumsha tunye senge nile malawe. How boko, kala kala kumsha tunye senge nile malawe. Oh my dudu ita. Oh my dudu ita. Palettes in the praise, I have a girl in the mask. Smomondi as summer last, shining diamond from the dust. I took a bill like a treasure, and I pray this marriage last. Naga girl and that's a must, shining diamond from the dust. I know tweripilo alije, tweripilo itata. Chipi ya urobela ditokwa ditebenga bamchalo manga. Una no boko, kala kala kumsha tunye senge nile malawe. How boko, kala kala kumsha tunye senge nile malawe. Oh my dudu ita. Oh my dudu ita. Oh my dudu ita. fine. Look how they dancing the way that she whine. It's like she broken but she thinks she fine. Look at the whole thing, that whole design. Look at the man and the queen is so fine. Look how she dancing the way that she whine. It's like she broken but she says she fine. Shaferi. I know tweripilo alije, tweripilo itata. Chipi ya urobela ditokwa ditebenga bamchalo manga. Una no kuku, kala kala insha tuni singe nile malawe. How kuku, kala kala insha tuni singe nile malawe. Oh my do ita. Oh my do ita.
The music you love is on 105.1 FM. YaronaFM. It's blue, black, and white bangers. On YaronaFM. BW bangers all day. BW bangers. Blue, black, and white bangers. The hottest BW bangers all day, every day.
Beka, 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 beka,
barefoot, the original cook. Red and blue stripes on the car keys. She gon' let me clap them butt cheeks.
I know feel lie for you, baby, baby.
Blue, black, and white bangers. Music. YaronaFM.
It's now time for an interesting conversation right here on The Good Life. It's Y Volt in just a moment, and you get to engage on +267 39 11066. Whatever question and comments you'd like to share on this conversation, do WhatsApp and send through a voice note, a voice text, or call on the show. It's +267 39 11066.
The Y Vote 2024 election debates are brought to you by YaronaFM in partnership with YTV.
And today on Y Vote, we will be discussing the role of election observers. Hundreds of election observers are expected to arrive in Botswana to monitor the elections.
And to understand the role of election observers, we have in studio civic leader Ulibile Machete and an accredited international election observer, and is passionate about all things electoral. And SADC members states are expected to follow principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. Now, welcome, sir. Before we could even jumpstart into this whole conversation, I just want to understand the role of election observers in the democratic structure.
Thank you very much, Luhle. Very good afternoon to you, Zoski. Good afternoon to yourself. And
thank you very much.
I think I'll start off by saying election observation is entrenched in the principles guiding democratic conduct of democratic elections within SADC. It is a requirement that not only do member states avail observers in elections within the SADC territory, but they also have to actively invite SADC to avail observers through what is called the SADC Electoral Observation Mission. The role basically is primarily to assess the extent to which a country adheres and conduct its elections in accordance and in line with the principles that have been outlined in the guidelines. They don't monitor. The role is specifically just to go in, observe, take note of what is happening. They don't interfere with the electoral process in any way. It's just to take note of what is happening and determine the extent to which compliance with the SADC guidelines and principles on democratic elections that country is.
Then I think, based on what you just said, the full participation of citizens in the political process, when you go out and look at these elections, or when you go and observe, do you look at this, how the registration of elections and voting, what do you really go out and look out for?
Yeah, of course. There's normally the election period, and I know these guys have already done that. It starts off with what is called the Goodwill Mission, where the SADC Electoral Advisory Council visit a country that's conducting elections months before the elections. That has already been done in this case. I believe it has already been done in Botswana. Basically, they come in to assess the preparedness and the processes around election observation. They would normally engage the electoral management body, in our case being the IEC. They would engage government, they would engage political parties, they would engage civil society organizations. But as you know, the electoral cycle is in three phases: the pre-election period, the election period, and the post-election period. So when it comes to the observation itself, it starts there before the election day, way before then. Of course, it would look at issues around voter registration. It would look at issues around campaigns and the landscape, the political landscape, how fair the political landscape is. It would look at issues around access to state media, coverage, and so on and so forth. And then it goes on to the actual voting day itself. These specific guidelines that is provided to observers to say these are the issues that you need to be looking at during the pre-election period, and production of the report on the same.
So when election observers come into this country, do they consider you or the locals who have covered elections observed elections in other countries, so that you can work hand in hand with them and also inform them that this is what we have already gathered as local observers? Yeah,
it is. It is imperative that international observers do engage with local observers to also get their views and insights into the electoral process, and any issues that may actually not have come to their attention, because normally they don't necessarily come. I mean, they're not here, but we anticipate the elections to be in the next 2 months. Yeah. We know what is happening at a national level. So it is important, it is imperative that there's engagement between the international observers and the local observers when the time does come.
Do you ever engage the electoral body prior to the elections to say this is what we have learned in other countries, and maybe if we could include this in our electoral process, it could enhance our democracy?
The engagement with the electoral management bodies is cardinal. It is a very part and parcel of election observation. There's no way you can do that without engaging the IEC. As to whether prior to the elections you could offer some advice in terms of best practice and so on, or in fact even with the guidelines themselves, which is the blueprint basically. No, it's not provided for that. It is whatever recommendations that normally come after the elections. But of course, reflections on the past recommendations will always take a center stage to say, for instance, there has been recommendations around counting of ballots in voting stations, in polling stations. It's a recommendation that has been recurring, so it becomes an issue to say, but how far have we gone with these recommendations? And that will, of course, be captured within the next report. So like I said, the process is not to interfere with ongoing, but to observe the extent to which the member state would then be would then be compliant to the principles. But I wouldn't also want to go into much detail because I'm not representing any organization. I think in terms of going into details around what is expected and so on and so forth, you could very well invite SADC, the African Union, and ECF.
I think the reason why we invited you is so that you can provide some form of education to our listeners, because most of us think that elections are just an event where we vote on the first day, on the day when it's elections day, and that's it. So we do not take into considerations some of the process in the build up to the big day. Hence why we have invited you. You've also mentioned issue of having access to the media, that in this country we know that some opposition parties have always complained about access to especially the state media. It's also the recommendation I believe SADC has had a position on. I'm not sure about EU and other institutions.
It's a very basic principle, but I think as a starting point, let's go back to the principles themselves and not pinpoint specifics. There's a total of 13 principles within the SADC guidelines that speak to how a free and fair democratic election must be conducted. Total of 13. And for me, I think the most important and the most outstanding would speak to citizen participation, citizens enjoying their freedom of association without intimidation. The principle that is most outstanding within the guidelines is the prescription of the day of elections within our electoral laws. There's no ambiguity in terms of when should elections, as we speak today, we don't know when our elections are going to be. And that runs contrary to the guidelines on conduct of democratic elections. It's a principle that says every member state within SADC should prescribe the date of elections within their laws. But for our case, it's up to the president to announce the date at which he may feel convenient. And that's very, it's like somebody who's a player and a referee at the same time, where they can sit back and say, assess their readiness and preparedness in the match that they're going to participate, and they say, well, now we are ready.
Okay,
we can go ahead.
From the member states in the SADC region, how many have a set date to say on this? I know with Americans, they already know that every 4 years on this particular day we're going to vote.
In November.
Yes, but in Botswana we just know that it's going to be in October.
We don't know. Who said so?
The tradition has always been that, based on the tradition. But we don't have a specific day. So hence why I'm asking that which other country within the SADC region?
There's a number of those countries. I mean, as we speak now, Namibia, the elections are coming in November. We already know the date, which is way after. Mozambique is having its elections, I think, around. So there's a number of countries that have gone on to make sure that it's prescribed within their laws. One opportunity that we've missed, I mean, we've been undertaking the constitutional review process, and this is something that we could have constitutionally entrenched if we are really committed to operationalizing these guidelines. But we have shown no interest in doing that. You're saying the elections are held in October. We know they're held in October. We don't. We traditionally they've been held in October. But nothing stops these elections to be conducted in January, for instance.
And maybe just to jump in for a minute and just bring it home. There was a point where when you were explaining it, you were just clarifying that you are not, you recommend, but you don't interfere with this year, for example. So whatever that's, are you saying whatever that's recommended, until the top of the so are you saying that as observers, you can just see something going wrong? For example, the fact that we don't even have the date right now, is it something where little observer acknowledge, but there's nothing that could be done? Is that what you're saying?
Again, I'm going to speak as somebody with experience, but not speaking on behalf of.
Yes.
We need to get that clear.
Yes.
I think the first thing, Lutley, is the SADC guidelines are a blueprint upon which all the member states have agreed. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about what the report said. They are the blueprint. All member states, the head of states, from the 15 SADC member states, they all sat down, went through this with the help of the technocrats to review, and finally adopted these guidelines. So it is incumbent on those on member states themselves to say, but these guidelines, this is what we've agreed on, and therefore we need to go ahead, because these are meant to enhance our democracy within the region. There's no way this can actually undermine democracy. They can only enhance our democracy. It's important that they speak to electoral justice, for instance. The guidelines speak to electoral justice. We all know what happened recently after the 2019 elections, where for the first time in the history of our republic we had
petitions.
We had the legitimacy of government being questioned, right? But we never got to test those that had issues. Of course, there may be, we can all appreciate that there was some mishap, if I may call that, or lack of compliance with the rules of the court by those that were questioning the legitimacy of government. But for the highest court in the land to say, the issue of the legitimacy of a government is none of my business, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So to this day, we have a key principle that speaks to the guidelines on the conduct of democratic elections, speaks to electoral justice, that it must be expedited, it must be transparent, it must be fair. That's a very cardinal point on...
Does our electoral law allow that? That process that you just spoke about?
No, it's not. I just gave an example where the Court of Appeal says, no, I'm not interested in dealing with the legitimacy, of a government. So you have Court of Appeal justices who are there, who can make a determination on the presidency, and they say, the guy who appoints us is none of my business. We can't say whether he's legitimate or not. That's an anomaly. But over and above that, I saw, if you followed the South African elections, you would have seen the extent to which the courts were inundated on a daily basis
with complaints.
And this was a practice of testing our democratic institutions, stretching them to the furthest levels. And in our case now, who's going to really petition elections? When you look, I was reading Maabani. Yes. And these guys must come and pay. We're not too sure. With this experience, would you ever do that?
No.
If you contested elections?
No. Yeah.
But so you can't have a democratic system where justice is so expensive insofar as dealing with their right, insofar as dealing with the legitimacy of government.
So, but when we also look at some of these things, issues of freedom of association and things like that, if you were to look at what happens in other countries and what happens in this country, what's the mood on the ground when you look at it from a distance? And especially that I don't want you to be saying you are carrying this hat as we are having this discussion.
Yeah. I think as we do that, I'm going to take you back to a question you raised earlier. Again, one of the key principles that speak to a democratic election is that speaks to access to state media. And it's a question that I would want to pose to say how many times, what would be your opinion of the extent of coverage by the state media on all the political players in this country? It's a question that I would want to pose to yourself. I have my opinions, and I've seen what is happening. I don't think we are compliant with with the SADC principles.
I
I mean, just yesterday, there were these reports that the Radio Botswana debates, am I allowed to say another radio station?
Yes.
Have been rescheduled and revised because a player is not ready. You know, that's just it's mockery of our democracy. You can't do that. So what if I'm not ready? I'm being what we had agreed upon, what we had committed as state media, that this is what's going to happen. This guy is not yet ready, so let's go. Let's revise the whole thing.
Let's take a quick break and have Botswana tuned in, engage in +26739111066. Send through your WhatsApp text, your WhatsApp voice note, or call right here on the show, and we will definitely engage with you on that one. For now, we're taking a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Malau, Lerato, Limo 101.3 FM, YaronaFM.
Breaking news! Sefalana is giving away cash and prizes worth 10 million pula. Get Kellogg's Cornflakes 1 kg for only 48 pula 99. Buy Blue Crystal Golden Brown Sugar 2.5 kg for just 33 pula 99. Get Chocoman Peanut Butter 480 grams for only 28 pula 99. Buy an 80-pack of Fresh Pack Rooibos Tigeless Tea Bags for only 31 pula 99. Get Pampers Nappies Premium Care Value Pack or Pampers Active Jumbo Nappies range, each for only 169 pula 99. Get MAC washing powder 2 kg for only 48 pula 99. Promotion is valid from the 5th of August to the 8th of September 2024 at Sefalana Hyper stores and select cash and carry branches in Botswana. Sefalana Saruna, 50 years of creating value.
Looking for the perfect office space in Sandton, Gauteng? Well, you can join Max for 4 months and get the 5th month free. Why pay per person for a serviced office when you can pay a fixed membership fee? Office spaces start from just 3,500 rands. Benefits of joining Max include no joining fee, flexible options, private and locked offices, 24-hour access, reduced tenant rates, safe and secure environment, no load shedding, and much more. Enjoy easy plug and play setup with membership perks like super fast free Wi-Fi, cleaning services, dedicated telephone lines, reception services, and much more. Call +27 11 444 446, or you can visit www.maxoffices.co.za today.
Whether you're cruising down the A1, navigating the city streets, or tackling rough terrains, Brothers Tire has the right tire for you. Since 1988, Brothers Tire remains a leader with first-to-market machinery such as our Q-Line aligner and road force balancing machine for starters. Visit us in Broadest Industrial if you don't settle for less. Like our Facebook page or call 393-7781. Brothers Tire, taking wheels and tires a great deal further.
We can't explain it.
The music, it just hits different.
On YaronaFM. The Y Vote 2024 election debates are brought to you by YaronaFM in partnership with YTV.
So, Mr. Mashad, I just want you to maybe because we are a youth radio station, and I just wanted you to just take us through. If I'm a young person who wants to become an accredited international election observer, what steps should one take?
Well,
and especially that we are also dealing with unemployment.
Of course.
Yes.
Sad story of our lives.
Yeah. Yes.
I think now I would encourage young people to get in contact with the local national CSOs. I know Bokongo will also be undertaking, I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I know that they will be undertaking election observation in these upcoming elections. There's also what is called BestNet, which is Botswana Election Support Network. I think the Secretariat gave a member site. I would encourage young people to get into contact with those. It's voluntary with the national observation, so that they get the necessary exposure into that space. But of course, in terms of the composition of international observation, I think it would also be wise for them, like I said, your SADC trains and accredits observers, your ECF, I think it's Electoral Council, for Southern Africa. It also does that. You also have the African Union, which also does that. So they may get into contact with those institutions.
What qualifications?
Well, I think there's no qualifications except that you shouldn't be a criminal. Well, you shouldn't have a criminal record.
Yeah.
But you should also have experience in election observation. That's why I was saying get into contact with CSOs, especially with these upcoming elections. I would encourage them to get into contact with both Bukongo, get into contact with Mbasadi, and see where they can fit into the national election. I'm sure they will also communicate at the opportune moment to say this is what we're going to be doing. I've been part of that in the past, and I know what you find that will be very short-staffed. But somebody will be able to do that within their own locality. So all one Mogoditsani will be able to cover the polling stations around Mogoditsani, and we get to appreciate in detail electoral processes and so on and so forth.
You have spoken about the political parties or political players having an access to their state media during an election season. I just wanted to find out the importance, as an election observer, the importance of the private media in terms of providing access to them. Do you consider this when you go around the world, and also look at in this country? Is there a provision? Is it fair the way the private media also provides platform for all different
You want me
players?
to share my opinion?
Yes.
On the local media.
Yes.
But you know, you are the living example of private media participation. You are provided the platform for all political parties, and big ups to yourselves. So I think there's no way you can talk about the media without talking about private media. It's very important that they provide the necessary coverage of all things electoral to all the political parties. But you know, these principles emphasize on state media because state media, in some ways, in control, or is being controlled by, there's some level of control by the member state through government. So, but you can't take away the importance of private media in participating. In terms of my view of the private media in Botswana in relation to this, I think they're doing a decent job of providing coverage to all the political players. I've seen almost all the parties that are participating being covered, whether we're talking about on your news, on the newspapers, and then the online publications as well. But there also seems to be an issue that is upcoming, and it's not an issue that's peculiar to ourselves as Botswana. I think it's a global phenomenon of publications that are coming up as propaganda tools. We can't ignore that. These are tactics that are employed by some of the political players to deal with their opponents.
I also wanted to find out from you, as we are expecting to have election observers coming into the country, do they also consider the social media, which now controls the narrative or what people can discuss, you know, in regard to the elections, and also what happens daily in terms of when they go for political rallies and trying to share their messages? Does it play a part?
It does. There's no way you can talk about the media in this day and age and not talk about social media. In fact, how many people, well, in comparison to social media, how many people actually buy papers? You know, people would actually enjoy watching these online much more than tuning into the radio station. So you can't talk about the media in this day and age without referring to social media. It's a critical component of the media.
Have you observed any country where you looked at this is what people were saying on social media, but when we went on the ground, the picture was totally different?
What are pertaining to what?
Elections. Say, for instance,
somebody has been beaten up.
Yes, somebody was being beaten up, or there's violence, and we quickly dashed to Hansi and we realized, but the situation is calm. It was a fight that is not related to elections.
I can't speak to incidents.
Yes.
I can't. but I'll speak to the principle.
Mm-hmm.
And the principle is that whatever allegations that come out of elections have got to be checked and confirmed for valid. This is what you call data triangulation. So whatever you hear from TUSO, you also need to find out if it may be valid or not. It is a principle that is very critical and central to observation of the elections. So like I said, the coming up of these online publications in particular that are used as propaganda tools, and therefore you can't take everything as the gospel. You also need to confirm on incidents as they come along.
Mm-hmm. Then let's move to, I know you have spoken about it, the freedom of association, the importance of it during the elections. I'm not sure if it's a major thing in this country where probably people were being prevented to meet and hold rallies and things like that. Maybe protest, of course, but when it comes to freedom of association or choosing a political party that you want, over the years, when you're going through maybe Bukongo at the time when you were volunteering to observe elections, what have you assessed and what have you picked from this?
Well, freedom of association, I don't think we have much of a problem as a country. I mean, people are free to express themselves and to associate with organizations and parties that they so desire. So I don't think it's been much of a problem. I don't remember seeing an incident where political parties were denied the right to, I may have missed it if it happened, they were denied the right to hold political rallies and so on and so forth. The motorcade, and they're allowed to do that. Lema Podisi ba rona are very professional, but some are the party. So freedom of association, in my view, it's quite a thing. It's not much of a problem. But of course, when we are the protest, we have a constitution that provides for freedom of expression, but then you have subsidiary laws that govern your freedom of expression, that you need to go and request for permission from Base Police, who will then determine whether a protester. Recently, with the constitutional review process, we had one of the churches, they had a permit, they sought a permit and got it, but later there were allegations, and I'll say allegations because I don't know the truthfulness of the same, that Mapolisi tried to change and say, please bring it back. So you do have freedom of expression, which is then curtailed by a subsidiary law.
Mm-hmm.
So freedom of association is a thing, but the fact that there's some controls and you may be denied your freedom of expression becomes problematic. You remember a couple of years back because they wanted to march to their office. So you remember your ATI, who was also at some point done that. So in as much as freedom of association is important and is there, we also have freedom of association without the requisite freedom of expression. It becomes compromised.
Then, as you have just mentioned, some of these incidents that were to take place, but others which were actually taking place, including the constitutional review, including that one of the benefits of President,
Yes.
VP, and others. Do you, when you descend into a country, also consider with those things that could unrest the country?
Yes, in terms of whether there could be issues that could possibly lead to disputes and civil unrest. Of course, you have to look at the political climate and the environment and what is happening at that particular time. It's not only important for purposes of observation, it also speaks to the safety of the people that have been deployed, because so you can't do that without. And I know that one of the things that the security forces do, they will also make an assessment of the polling stations, police station by police station, and the code. Code red, and they know, hey, we need to beef up security and around that area due to 1, 2, 3, 4. So of course, when observers go into a country, one of their first stops after deployment is the police station, to go and engage with the police and introduce themselves, and also get to appreciate the security situation and any issues that may actually lead to possibility of a civil unrest.
So following each election season, when after elections have been held, then there will be these recommendations that election observers make. I just want to find out, why are they binding? Why some countries decide to ignore these recommendations and just continue with
why Botswana chooses to ignore these recommendations and the guidelines?
Yes.
They are not binding. They depend on the goodwill. I suppose when our esteemed heads of states met, they believed that they were doing this in good faith, and they were all committed to advancing principles of democracy, good democratic governance within the region. And therefore it's not binding. It's something that you have to commit as a country. And for us it's embarrassing really that we're in leadership of SADC. I mean, the headquarters of SADC, how we hold the position of executive secretary. For us of all nations to be undermining these guidelines, it's quite an embarrassment, and we should all be questioning ourselves. That we have, so our parliament most recently rejected.
It was last week.
Yes,
it was a private member's bill. Yes, but I understand it was
been
rejected. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe, sir, let me also ask you this on behalf of the youth. Okay, with this being said, with everything that you're saying, how does this, at the end of the day, affect me, Botswana?
Well, the democracy has a direct bearing on our lives. The quality of life that I'm living now, the quality of a job that I have, the quality of healthcare, the quality of education, it all drives down to one thing and one thing only: our choice of government. And that process of selecting a government needs to be as thorough and fair and transparent as possible. So you can't ignore. I mean, I saw that there's 247,000 young people that have registered to vote.
Yes, sir.
They need to appreciate that the 247,000 young people that are registered to vote, it is their turn to employ a government that will speak to them. And therefore, you can't have a government that speaks to you in an uneven playing field. It is important that where there's clearly attempts at undermining these principles, we all have a duty to call it out and say, but this is not right and this cannot be right.
Mm-hmm. I think just coming to an end, the reason why I was asking that was on this regulation, compliance with all national laws and regulations. How much time do you have to study and understand the laws of a particular country as you descend in?
It's part and parcel of training the observers. So the first stop that they normally do upon arriving, there's a training that's extended to drivers. So the legal framework becomes part and parcel of that. But of course, there's also a team that also now goes into details around the laws and regulations governing elections in that particular country.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do that without appreciating the legal framework.
Okay. Thank you very much, Reulibile Machete, who is an accredited international election observer. Today we just wanted to discuss and understand the role of an election observer during elections as we prepare for elections in October.
And thank you so much, sir, once again, Len Nahela from myself, The Good Life. And for you tuned in we're back again next week, Monday. Remember, it's Why Vote right here on The Good Life every Mondays to Thursdays, 1 to 2 p.m., where we give you all these discussions and debates to help you make informed decisions. We're moving right along with the show. This is The Good Life, taking it all the way to 3 p.m.
This is the music I heard in my head. It hits different.
YaronaFM.
Lift the music. It's different.
This is the music I heard in my head.
Yarona YaronaFM. YaronaFM.
It's different.
Same location, second location.
YaronaFM.
The Ministry of Communications, Knowledge and Technology, in collaboration with the Botswana International University of Science and Technology, BUST, and industry partners, will commemorate the 2024 National Science Week at Tlokweng, Mafihla Kgosi Primary School grounds on the 19th to the 23rd of August 2024. The Minister of Communications, Knowledge and Technology, Honorable Thulaganyo Sogokgo, will officially open the event on August 20th, 2024, under the theme, An Inquiry Mind, a Gateway to Creativity and Innovation. For more information, contact the National Science Week Secretary, Ms. Lapo Banti, at 493-1203. That's 493-1203, or email bantil@bust.ac.bw, or the MCKT Public Relations Unit at 361 361-200, or email CKTpro@gov.bw.
Directory services, hello?
Yes, I need a number for a company that installs cameras for my office, please.
Okay.
And also a number for a company that does IT support. And also for Baba Service signing the server. Yes, and one that connects the computers. Network.
Why call everyone when you can call all in one? Carrera Holdings. No job is too big or small for our crack team of boffins. From cybersecurity, software and hardware, to CCTVs, home or boardroom automation, access and boom gate control systems, and more. Visit www.carrera.co or call 311-2661. Carrera Holdings, taking care of your ICT needs.
You have invested a lot in your car, but your car is still giving you problems because of cheap and fake parts. The next time you need auto parts and accessories, trust Auto World, your one-stop spare shop for quality auto parts. We have a full range in truck and trailer parts as well. Plus, our products are durable and last longer. Visit Auto World for quality auto parts and accessories, or call 3933-960. Auto World, your one-stop spares shop, where you and quality come first.
Go tswa go ngwageng wa 1970, Trans Cash and Carry e ntse e tla go tlhoma ko pele le balapa la gago e go fa ditlhwatlhwa tse di kgatlhisang go gaisa le dilwana tsa boleng jwa maemo a ntlha. Trans Cash and Carry e na le madirelo a le 17 mo mahelong a hera bongwe Botswana ka bophara. Re go polokela madi mo dijong, didirisiwa tsa mo lapeng, merogo le maungo, dinotsididi le tse dingwe hela jalo. Mme ebile re bula malatsi a supa mo bekeng go netefatsa gore ga o tlolwe ke meamuso ya rona. Etela madirelo